OpenAI's new killer app.
OpenAI introduces ChatGPT Help.
Ah, that's stupid as shit. Thankfully, they said they're not gonna use that to train their model. But why in the fuck do they want you to have everything so connected? Uh, nah, I don't know. I don't feel like watching it anymore.
A dedicated experience in ChatGPT designed for health and wellness. There is a waitlist. I encourage everybody to join. When you click join the waitlist, it says 404 not found. It gives you a nice little poem. In the heat of day, the path dissolves to nothing. M dash, an empty mirage. A beautiful poem, a little bit annoying, but it's very likely that they're getting tons of people that are trying to get in right now, so certainly understandable. So there's a couple of things to understand here. First and foremost, there has been some leaked information from OpenAI. I believe the original source was theinformation.com, and it informed us that the product that OpenAI is working on, the thing that we've all kind of been waiting for, is actually
What do you mean waiting for him? What does this fucking mean? You can securely connect medical records and wellness apps so responses are grounded in your own health information. What is the fucking matter?
a pen, something that looks like this. This is it.
You,
This is just
I got the same pen.
a random pen that I had, but I
Smith and
assume it's probably going to
Wesson.
have a similar form factor. You clip it on to your pocket. Sounds like it might have camera and audio, so being able to record, and it's going to have ChatGPT built in. It sounds like OpenAI is currently working on a very specific model that's going to be used for this new product, this pen.
And you're gonna charge it by praying to Sam Altman.
So I'm sure at this point everybody's used advanced voice mode. It's pretty good, but there's some issues that they're trying to iron out. So like when you interrupt it, how well you're able to interrupt it in order to start a new chain of conversation. And it's meant to be the third device. So kind of how you have your phone. Everybody has a phone. A lot of people have maybe some sort of a watch. I have my Whoop here or an Aura Ring or whatever, smartwatch, Apple Watch, whatever. This is meant to be the third thing that you carry around with you
Wasn't the phone, the computer, and then this stupid ass shit?
everywhere you go. So, this to me really seems to go along with this
Oh,
idea.
everywhere
It's
you
just something to
go.
keep in mind as we read this. Another quick angle to keep in mind. So, this is Jimmy Apples. We've mentioned him before. We're not sure who he is, but at this point, most people that follow AI news, we kind of know that he's got some insider information specifically about OpenAI, but also kind of the Bay Area AI frontier labs and startups in general. He basically knows some things before the rest of us find out about it. So sometimes he'll tweet something very cryptically, and months later, we're like, oh, this is the thing that he's been talking about. Now, recently, Jimmy Apples also posted this saying the corp slop has won. Long live the old OpenAI, its spirit now dead. Now, that likely refers to an engineer who recently left OpenAI, but we'll also kind of see if maybe this plays into this new announcement. But let's dive into this ChatGPT Health and see what this whole thing is about. So, the idea is pretty simple. ChatGPT Health can help you navigate everyday questions and spot patterns over time so you feel more informed, prepared, and confident for important medical conversations. We recently interviewed Farzad from YouTube, and of course, his handle is Farziness on X. One of the things that we talked about on our podcast and our interview is this post, which, by the way, Elon Musk jumped in there asking a few clarifications. But here Farzad is saying that his favorite use case for Claude Code, and he credits somebody else that kind of posted this idea on X, but he fed the entire raw genetic file from 23andMe, plus his latest comprehensive blood work, plus the latest scans from the arteries checking for plaque, plus my entire supplement routine. So I gotta say, this is impressive. I've done my blood work and I fed it to ChatGPT way back in the days when it just was announcing the deep research capability, or they were calling it the pro version. And I've posted those results on X on YouTube, and I was extremely impressed because I could upload my actual medical information from my blood work and it would go line by line, explain everything, But specifically, it would also be able to answer questions kind of customized to me. So if I said, here's my age, here's some of the supplements that I take,
But why would you trust it if there's inherent hallucination? I mean, I'm sure doctors are gonna love you.
here's some of the maybe the issues that I'm having, like how can we translate that to actionable advice
This is just gonna aggravate hypochondriacs.
that I can take to feel better, to be healthier, etc. And it was incredible. It was very informative. It was very actionable. It was educational. I learned more about what those numbers mean in a way that you can't really get from a visit to the doctor's office or surfing the internet. And so I do feel like a lot of people are sleeping on this. This is kind of a big, big deal. But Farzad took it to the next level, feeding it basically everything. I mean, if you think about it, just feeding it your entire genetic file, right? So if you get your genome sequenced, it's this massive amounts of information that's extremely hard to kind of decode unless you really know what you're doing. But based on this, he was able to come up with a tailored plan specifically based on his genes and his current health. And he's saying this is going to transform healthcare. By the way, I agree 100%. Elon Musk jumped in saying anything actionable apart from eat healthy and work out, which is a great question because I do find that oftentimes these models do kind of get lazy and they kind of default to the basics. They're like, eat a lean meat, follow the Mediterranean diet, make sure you get your movement in, your 10,000 steps, sleep well. And like we all know this, but I don't know if I would consider that useful or actionable advice just because we all kind of know this, right? So I know it's important advice, but it's not just because somebody else repeats it for the millionth time is not as helpful. So Farzad answers, yes, for example, I was on a B12 supplement.
Okay, so what is it gonna change? Are you gonna transform? Like, what's your goal with that? What is going to happen? Are you gonna grow like a new limb, or you're gonna start to have telekinetic powers? Like, what the fuck, man?
By my genetics showed that I wasn't able to break it down nearly as well as a different kind of B12. Same with omega 3s. So in our interview, I kind of followed up because I'm like, this sounds like the MTHFR mutation. The MTHFR gene mutation is an annoying mutation because it has some downsides. I most likely have it. I've never actually did my full genetic makeup, but based on my testing, I'm like 90% sure that I have it. By the way, you might have
Wes, that's unfortunate. But I mean, this is how hypochondriac people talk.
heard this referred to by a different name. So if you notice how it's spelled, MTHFR, and people don't like having this mutation, there's another name that people refer to it as. The first part is mother, right? So mother, FR, you can figure it out. Recently, Kevin Rose and Tim Ferriss on their podcast were talking about how Kevin Rose used whether ChatGPT or some of the chatbot to actually do research into because he also has this gene mutation, the MTHFR mutation. And he talked about how he, over time, figured out how he was able to lower his homocysteine levels. In his case, he used the NAC supplement, among other things. But the point is, this is one of those things
To
where
do what?
most people are not going to have any issues eating certain foods. And for people with this mutation, it can really gunk up the machinery and cause all sorts of problems. And a lot of it is basically having to do with methylation, how your body methylates, or you can think of it as sort of producing certain needed components from raw materials. Right. So if you think of your body as like we input raw materials here and it has to sort of break them down into all the needed different parts in order to make sure that your cardiovascular, neurological, reproductive health, that all of that is working properly. If certain things get clogged, then the whole thing stops working. If you've ever played Factorio, you know what that's like. So in this
Yes, but how impactful was the
case,
change?
this gene mutation has a trouble converting folate to its active form, 5-methyl tetrahydrofolate, 5-MTHF. So, for example, for me, I always have this methylated folate, a supplement that I get. I always have it. I might run out of some other supplements, but this one I always have on hand, the 5-MTHF. Now, I figured this out before chatbots existed through hours and hours and hours of research and listening to podcasts with various doctors, reading various books. So hundreds of hours, I'm pretty sure I can safely say, to figure out these little things that make me feel better, that make my life better, that make me healthier. Hundreds of hours of work to figure this out. And probably 2025 was the first year where chatbots got good enough to actually be able to do this. But now you can upload
Okay, but like, how bad was it before? What was like your symptoms? Or how would you behave, your body feel? And afterwards,
your raw genetic data to something like this and add your supplements, blood work, etc., and it just tells you like, hey, you've got this mutation, here's what that means, and here
that sounds so fucking dangerous. Could you imagine if there was like just a big ass hallucination there and it just tells you to do something so stupid? And because you've been so reliant on it, because you feel that you're sick or that you have a genetic mutation, you're looking for it. There's like a confirmation bias here, you know? Like, isn't it what you want to hear? That sounds very wrong.
here's some brain dead simple solutions for how to implement it and to make your life better, right? So we went from hundreds of hours of research, and by the way, most
Better
people
how?
won't do that research. I'm just insane. I kind of enjoy doing it, but for
Does sound like, you know, being a hypochondriac.
most people, they don't have the time nor the interest to dig that deep into their specific genome or their specific biology to figure out these tiny little tweaks to make them feel better, perform better, etc. So
I mean, that could be, oh, wow, I'm blanking. Oh my God. Psychological, but you get a real pill and you get a, oh, I'm blanking. Placebo, placebo. There you go.
so this is going to transform healthcare.
Yes, because what improvement? He said little tweaks to make you feel better. That sounds like fucking psychological shit. What you gonna do when you're gonna mix up a whole bunch of shit and then your body, I mean, the body's a resilient machine. And that's the whole idea I have behind that is that, I mean, what does it change? People used to die at 40 years old. People, you, for most of humanity's existence, people wouldn't grow old. What's this fucking obsession? What you you want to be like 98 and take 100 billion pills? What's the whole point?
This is 100% true. There's this saying is like, if you want to know what the future looks like, the technological future, really what predicts it with a shockingly high degree of accuracy is you just take a look at what are all the tech nerds doing in their free time, on Saturday and Sunday. What are they focused on? You could have predicted this kind of
Eh, What do you mean, man? Are people building like huge NASA's everywhere? I mean,
AI wave based on what people were doing in 2023, 2024. Although it already blew up by 2024, but like 22, 23, if you just looked at what all the nerds were talking about, you can kind of predict this thing blowing up. By the way, just yesterday,
What do you mean, man? Before
I ran this
I
in
don't know, is this
ChatGPT
triggering me?
5.2 Pro. So I had a question. It went out, did about 14 minutes worth of research, and kind of typed it up for me here. Specifically, I was very interested to understand how dopamine works, because I find that tons of people say things about dopamine, but they don't fully understand the process, or it's a certain shorthand, because there's basically the kind of the natural production of dopamine, then there's the release of dopamine caused by certain activities, or I mean stimulants do that as well, and then there's the dopamine actually attaching to the receptors, which is that reward signal. But my point here is that these chatbots, especially with the advanced pro mode, etc., can do deep research into the things that specifically you're talking about, because a lot of stuff that kind of
Why is it doing deep research? Doesn't it have the information already inside of it? Can't it just produce new information? Why is it researching?
broad and it might not apply to you. So, getting custom tailored information that applies to you specifically isn't very easy. So, my big point here with ChatGPT Health is that this or something like this, it doesn't have to be OpenAI, it doesn't have to be Chat.
This is another aspect of what they need to make everything feel more human-like in the future, right? Because they're gonna take, they said they're not gonna take your data, your health data to train the model, but that doesn't mean that they're not gonna use uh, your chat still to train it, you know? Uh, they might see that a lot of men above a certain age have worries about specific health issues and see patterns all over. I mean, it's nothing crazy here. What they're presenting, what they're this whole shit here, this is disgusting. So, what is it going to lead to? Is it going to be connected to a government database in the future? So everybody has to have their medical records connected here? Like, why are you pushing this? And you're also pushing, um, you're gonna start pushing ads. You, now you said that you're gonna have your employees test ads inside of the chat conversations, and you want people to shove their medical records in there. So what's it gonna be, man? You want people to rely on it so much, you create this fake value right here, and then you're gonna do insidious shit and just shove fucking ads in the conversation. Is it gonna be like properly distinguished? Is it just gonna be part of the conversation? Like, what the fuck? What is this shit? How fucking dense are they, honestly?
ChatGPT, but someone's going to build this killer app that helps you track all of your health metrics, that knows your genome, that knows your blood work, the
Oh
supplementation
yeah,
that you're taking. I
yeah, because all of that information I want OpenAI to have. That sounds fucking
ideally, it
beautiful.
even tracks your daily food intake passively. I recently tested out this app called
Bro, if you have an agentic OS on your phone, you could have your phone inside of your pocket, muted, taped, whatever the fuck you want. If it exists and you have it close to you, you live with it, like your cell phone, it's going to be able to pick up so much more information than you can even imagine. People don't understand how much information you produce just by existing. Do you understand that? That is so fucked up. That is so fucked up. The normalization here is disgusting.
Bite Pal. This is not sponsored. They're not paying me to say this. In fact, I end up signing up for their paid program, so I'm paying them. But this is one of the first ones that I've seen where you're able to just snap a picture of your food and they use some sort of an AI model to estimate the macros, the calories, etc. Now, in the past, I've tried it with advanced models from OpenAI and Gemini, etc., to see how well they do. There's a few ChatGPT models that were incredibly good at visually just breaking down, the calories, the macros accurately. But I always kind of assumed that we're never going to see those high quality models being used in everyday apps like this because you can't have a free app and also use an advanced, expensive image recognition AI model to do this. And you need a really good one. And maybe in the future, we'll get to the point where it'll be cheap enough to where we're able to have a free app that does that. But right now, this is a paid app. So you do have to pay some yearly fee in order to use it. But its ability to, track all your macros by just snapping a photo, this has been so far really good. If they don't downgrade it to save on costs, I'm probably going to continue to use this. But you can imagine some sort of glasses or
Like, how do you know how accurate it is?
even that pen, if it's able to, track, if you're able to just pull it out and
Yo,
kind of point it
fuck
at your
that
food,
pen.
you kind of like a
Fuck
Harry
that
Potter
shit.
wand, you kind of go like this.
Like, this is also going to be able to pick up so much more information that you can imagine. Uh, if it exists, if somebody tears it down, I need to see what's inside. Because, uh, Jesus.
So it sort of takes a picture of your food and then tracks it. I mean, you can imagine a all-in-one app that does all of that, all of your health, all of your diet, tracks your exercise.
Like, they expect you to carry a fucking pen that you're gonna have to charge how often? This shit's gonna be connected to the internet, so you know there's gonna be a lot of traffic, right? How long is gonna this doesn't make sense.
It
None
might
of
even
this makes
replace
sense.
something like the Whoop or the Aura, where it tracks your sleep and everything, everything, everything. You go into the
That sounds good. Everything, everything, everything. Nice.
doctor, you hit a little button on it and records the conversation
What do you mean press a button? It should always be recording.
of your doctor. It adds those notes to your file. Right now, one thing that I'm struggling with is, over the years, I've done tons of blood work, but it's all in different places in various accounts. I've never bothered to just add it to one place that I control. It's always at some doctor website or whatever. Having something like this could easily store and organize and automate all of your information in one place. Now, I'm not saying, again, keep in mind, I'm not saying ChatGPT, how this particular thing is going to be that. What I'm saying is there will be, by one of these companies, there will be something like this that is just absolutely indispensable to people, that completely revolutionizes your health, that enables people to do biohacking.
That sounds so great. I'm gonna have to pay for that shit. I'm gonna have to pay a subscription for that shit. I'm gonna have to buy the shit that the shit says I should eat. And this is gonna be biohacking, right? Biohacking. You're just gonna change the fucking food that you eat. People are fucking struggling. The computer market is starting to be completely fucked. And you should be grateful because you're gonna get a pen that you can shove up your butt while you sleep so it gets your temperature and knows your REM cycle. It's gonna be wonderful. Wonderful.
Or experiments or just keep track of their health to make intelligent decisions and put everything into one place. So here they're saying that this app, ChatGPT Health, will be able to incorporate medical records and apps like Apple Health, MyFitnessPal, and Peloton. By the way, if you were curious on
Yeah, because ChatGPT is working as hard as they can to have as much integrations with as much partner as they can, because why not, right? They need to stay alive. They need to show as if they're progressing. Nothing's happening right here. This is just a bunch of shit.
On what I found out during my research into dopamine, really it comes down to two things. One is do zone 2 cardio. Zone 2 cardio is kind of like you can think of it as a brisk walk. It's something you can do where you can still keep up a conversation, but it's kind of
Let's dig into some investment scenarios.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. Welcome to the
difficult. So it's at the upper limit of being able to keep up a conversation. So for some people, that might be jogging. For some people,
So ChatGPT changed your life because it told you that you need to walk briskly.
that might be walking. So that's number one thing, something that apparently helps you develop more dopamine receptors, allows for BDNF, which then translates to neuroplasticity. So that's kind of huge. And the second thing is just be okay with being bored more often. Someone asked me the other day, they said, have you ever raw dogged a flight? I was very confused. I'm like, excuse me, raw dog a flight? What does that mean? And they said, well, have you ever like took a plane somewhere and you didn't use your phone or headphones?
So weird because the news said that it's dangerous and unhealthy to raw dog a flight. Extreme raw dogging. It depends if you're not doing anything whatsoever. Okay, well, it depends on the extent of raw dogging, right? Because I mean, if you're on TikTok, I mean, it has to be uh, meme grade, right? 13 and a half. Fl- Jesus Christ, 13 and a half. Gonna snap, man. 13 and a half hour flight without any in-flight entertainment, films, books, or music. It's quite tough, honestly. And no shit. I mean, if you're not even a talk to somebody, it gets bad.
Or a book, you just sat there and, stared straight ahead. And I thought about it and I said, no, not anytime recently. Usually use some form of media to entertain yourself, right? You get your phone out, you listen to an audiobook, maybe there's some magazines that you can look at that are there. But I thought it was kind of interesting that this sort of word is being kind of re-emerging to just mean be bored, be okay without technology, be okay without entertainment, right? Can you raw dog your walk, your drive? Can you just sit in a chair, not need some sort of entertainment constantly in your face? I gotta say, I've lost that ability over the last 10 years or so, or at least I don't even attempt it. I usually have to have some sort of interaction with a screen when nothing else is going on. But it sounds like not doing that, being a little bit more bored, not trying to be entertained all the time, is
Not necessarily bored, because it depends, you know. You could be there sitting and just let your mind wander. Just whatever you think about, and you think about a whole bunch of shit. You think about the stuff you need to do, but eventually you go through all the things you need to think about, right? And you start to think about other stuff, and it gets creative, or you can get inspiration, whatever. It's pretty cool.
very helpful for the dopamine systems in our brains. So here OpenAI continues, and I think this gives us a glimpse into kind of what they're aiming for, right? So they're saying ChatGPT Health can explain test results, help you prepare for doctor's visits, advise on a diet and workouts, and
Your doctor is gonna fucking hate you. ChatGPT told me I got this and I should talk to you about that.
compare insurance plans. Now, of course, the compare insurance plans is the thing that likely can pay for this entire thing. They'll probably have medical insurance or life insurance or whatever other medical products or services they can provide. That can be monetized extremely, extremely well. And that's probably
Man, this is people like convenience. This is gonna fuck up society so bad. Even if it's not intelligent, you know?
probably one of the things that they're looking for in terms of how to, they're losing money right now. How do they increase their revenue? How do they make this eventually profitable? They do also note that all of this medical information that they're going to be using, it's not going to like pop into your regular chats, right? So it's going to be stored in a specific sort of section. So if you ask the chatbot something, it's not going to randomly
Like, how different is that to any other AI agent? Another AI agent which should give other context, other files. There's nothing changing here. How come they're able to pull out new things, right? Agentic models. What was this? Oh, shit. Yeah, so how are they able to ship out or shove out all these stupid ass shit? But I mean, there's no new model. What's gonna happen with the data centers? Like, this is the stuff that they're circle jerking together about. There's nothing different here than before, right? It's just another section and you shove medical information instead of your Word document. You want people to rely on that. You want people to trust it. How stupid is that? How stupid is that? This is so stupid. You got people falling for scams all the fucking time. You have we've had every single fucking week, okay, a new news about Chrome extensions stealing shit, specifically chat conversations with AI models. We've had malicious and legitimate. The VPN proxy, I don't remember what. It was not malware. It was inside of the privacy policy, the terms and conditions. This is where they gave themselves the authorization to steal your fucking chat. And you're gonna shove medical records inside of it? How stupid is that? Yeah, seriously.
mention some medical condition you have. I've asked ChatGPT to roast me a few times in the past, and it's sometimes kind of hurtful because it does utilize its knowledge of you, the stuff that you've asked in the past, and it just like kind of just throws it in your face. Andre Karpathy posted one of his experiments in asking ChatGPT to roast him, which I thought was hilarious. It said something along the lines of, you're like a world class expert in machine learning, but the other day you asked me how to boil an egg, right? Which I thought was hilarious because, yeah, he probably just, yeah, like how long do I boil an egg for? He asked that of ChatGPT and later just gets
I mean, you just got glazed by a clank
thrown in
here.
his face. You don't want that happening with your private medical information. Can you imagine? So I just realized that
I mean, there's so many issues with AI models. There's leaks, prompt injection, there's all sorts of shit. So, how in the actual fuck do you think that this is a good idea? You know why all your medical records are spread out in different platforms that you never bothered to centralize and keep for yourself? Well, I would imagine in the US it is the same thing. Here in Canada, there's laws about what they have to do about medical records, right? There's inherent security, and you want to shove that inside of this we break shit and then live with the consequences type of company. Your DNA, 23andMe, was already a big ass issue. It was a fucked up issue. They were saying, we will never sell your DNA. We will never do it. All right. Somebody bought that and they didn't give a shit about it. You realize the type of world that we live in, right? Everybody's out to scam you. Everybody's out to take fucking advantage. And they want you to put the most personal information about yourself. This is getting out of whack.
That probably the reason that I get a 404 is because Apple Health requires iOS. So it's going to be rolling out to everyone on the web and iOS soon. And of course, if you're on Android, you are a second class citizen and no one loves you. So if you have a Pixel
Bet.
phone as your main device like I do, that means you're a bad person. So hopefully this thing will have a good bedside manner. So like I say, I'm pretty excited about this. Not necessarily this app, although it could be this app that becomes the killer app for this particular application. But in general, this or something like this will eventually become an indispensable part of our life or of our ability
Look,
to track
listen
our
to the
health, to
language.
improve our health, to do various
Fuck that.
experiments. I know most people won't like the idea.
What do you mean? What's gonna happen afterwards? Will insurance companies pay OpenAI to have access to this information and then they can just absolutely hijack your insurance based on your DNA, based on your blood work? I mean, this it's fucking
Of doing
disgusting.
experiments. But for me, I'd love the idea to be able to track lifestyle changes to see how well they affect me. If I switch
Fucking
my
write it
diet
down in
or
a
exercise
journal.
routine, how can I track everything in one place and get
Oh shit, I don't know because nobody has ever tracked their health in the history of time before. For
actionable
fuck's
advice
sake.
where some chatbot, I can just ask it, okay, go back. I've did this for the last 3 months. What changes do you see? And have it go and read and do all